Hi, my name is Russell Pate, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Illinois. In this video, I'll be giving a tutorial on how to use the dairy-focused somatic cell count calculator. The first objective of this tutorial is to instruct the user on how to import data from the herd into their calculator. I will explain how to import the correct data from the data management systems DairyComp 305 and PCDART, and I'll also explain how to manually input the data into the calculator if you do not use one of these two softwares for your herd. Once the herd data is imported into the calculator, I will then familiarize the user on how to operate the calculator. From there, you will be able to identify the cows in your herd that are contributing high somatic cell counts into the bulk tank, as well as view the benefits that would result from eliminating certain cows from the bulk tank. Viewing these results may then assist the user in making management decisions that would improve herd health, efficiency, and overall economic gain. Regardless of the program you use or the way that you input your data, the first thing that you need to do is download the somatic cell count calculator from the DairyFocus website. This can be done by going to dairyfocus.illinois.edu, which is located here, and clicking on the Tools section from the homepage. In the Tools section, you will find a link for the somatic cell count calculator. Once you have clicked on the correct link, it will prompt you to fill out some basic demographic information. When you have filled out the information, you will then proceed to download the calculator by pressing the button here. After you've pressed the button, it will take you to the download page, where you can select the appropriate link that matches the way you will enter the data into the calculator, whether that be DairyComp, PCDART, or manual data entry. Once the calculator is downloaded, it will look something like this. Now what we need to do is get your herd data into the calculator. First, I'm going to explain how to extract the necessary herd data from DairyComp 305 in order to properly use the calculator. Open DairyComp to the home screen of the herd that you want to analyze. Next, click on the command line and type the command list lactation group, ID, milk, somatic cell count, percent fat, previous milk, previous somatic cell count, days in milk, for lactation groups greater than 0. It is important to note that this command may not work for your DairyComp program because every program has specific command preferences. You need to make sure that your program is pulling up a list of lactation group, ID, current test day milk, current test day somatic cell count, current test day butterfat percent, previous test day milk, previous test day somatic cell count, and days in milk for cows in lactation group greater than 0. It is very important that the report is in that exact order to make sure that the calculator is computing all values correctly. Once you have the report pulled up, click on the Open button located here, and a drop-down menu will appear. From the drop-down menu, select Open in Excel XLS. This will then open an Excel sheet with the data from the DairyComp report, similar to the one shown here. Now that you have the information in Excel, you need to bring it to the calculator that was previously downloaded. In order to do this, first select the cell A1 that says Lactation Group by left-clicking it once. When the cell is selected, you will then highlight all of the data in the sheet by pressing Ctrl and A on your keyboard simultaneously. Once all of the data is highlighted, you will then copy the data. Copying your data can be done in two ways. The first is by right-clicking your newly highlighted data. A drop-down menu will then appear next to your cursor, and you will click on the Copy button to copy the data. An alternate way to copy is to press the Ctrl and C keys on your keyboard simultaneously while the data is highlighted. Once the data is copied, you will then open up the previously downloaded calculator in Excel. Make sure that you have the workbook open to the first sheet titled Imported Data as seen here. You will notice a box highlighted in orange saying Lactation Group on the top left-hand side of the screen, located in cell B1, and next to it an arrow saying Paste Data into this box. This box is where you will paste the data from the DairyComp 305 Excel sheet. In order to do this, highlight the box in cell B1 by clicking on it once. There are two ways to paste over the data. The first is by right-clicking on the highlighted box and then selecting Paste from the drop-down menu that appears. The second way is to have the cell highlighted and press the Ctrl and V keys simultaneously, which will paste over all the highlighted data. Once the data is pasted, the import data sheet will look something like this. Now let's go through how to download the correct herd data from PC-Dart. First, open PC-Dart to the home screen of the herd that you want to analyze. Next, click on the button on the top left-hand side of the screen labeled RPT for reports, as seen here. This will open up the Sets and Reports menu. From there, you will expand the section entitled User Reports by clicking the plus button or by double-clicking. Once expanded, you will find many useful reports. However, the one we are interested in is number 30, somatic cell count, milking cows, current somatic cell count order. All you need to do is highlight the report by left-clicking on the name once. It is important that you do not open the report in the PC-Dart program, as opening the report will hinder you from exporting the report to Excel. Once you have the report 30 highlighted, click the Excel button on the upper part of the screen. This will then open up an Excel sheet with the data from report 30, similar to the one shown here. Now that you have this information in Excel, you need to bring it over to the Dairy Focus Somatic Cell Count calculator that was previously downloaded. In order to do this, first select cell A1 that says Group by left-clicking it once. When the cell is selected, you will then highlight all of your data in the sheet by pressing the Ctrl and A keys on your keyboard simultaneously. Once all of the data is highlighted, you will then copy the data. Copying the data can be done in two ways. The first is by right-clicking on your newly highlighted data. A drop-down menu will then appear next to your cursor, and you will select the Copy button to copy the data. An alternate way to copy the data is to press the Ctrl and C keys simultaneously while the data is highlighted. Once the data is copied, you will then open up the previously downloaded calculator Excel workbook. Make sure that you have the workbook open to the first sheet titled Imported Data, as seen here. You will notice a box highlighted in orange saying Lactation Group on the top left-hand side of the screen located in cell B1, and next to it an arrow saying Paste Data into this box. This box is where you will paste the data from the PC-Dart Excel sheet. In order to do this, highlight the box in cell 1 by left-clicking on it once. There are two ways to paste over the data. The first is by right-clicking on the highlighted box and then selecting Paste from the drop-down menu that appears. The second way is to have the cell highlighted and press the Ctrl and V keys simultaneously, which will paste over all of the highlighted data. Once the data is pasted, the import data sheet will look something like this. Using the Dairy Focus Somatic Cell Count calculator is easy to do, even if you do not manage your herd using a data management program and prefer to enter your herd data by hand. All you need to do is download the manual entry somatic cell count calculator from the Dairy Focus toolbox and make sure it's open to the imported data sheet. In the provided spreadsheet, manually type in each cow's lactation group, cow ID, current test day milk production, somatic cell count, and butterfat, as well as previous test day milk production and somatic cell count, and also days in milk for each cow that you want to analyze. The sheet will look similar to the one shown here. Now that the data from DairyComp, PC-Dart, or manual entry is inputted into the spreadsheet, we will now begin to use the Dairy Focus Somatic Cell Count calculator. Once you have your data in the Imported Data tab, you will be able to import the data into the calculator by pressing the blue button entitled Press to Import Data into the Somatic Cell Count calculator. This button will take all of the data and input it into the calculator located on the second sheet titled Dairy Focus Somatic Cell Count Calculator. It is important to note that this button is eliminating all cows that do not have both milk production and somatic cell count data from the most current test date. This is done in order to make sure that all calculations can be computed accurately. Also, if you wish to delete the data from the Import Data page, simply press the Delete Data button shown here. Now that all the information is in the calculator, this is where you can really dig into your herd data and use the calculator to your advantage. In order to make this happen, let's first orient you to the layout of the calculator so that it may be properly operated. On the left-hand side of the page are the values that were copied over from DairyComp, PC-Dart, or by manual entry. To the right of the data are some values that are computed by the calculator. including current test day bulk tank somatic cell count percent contribution, current test day somatic cell count linear score, and previous test day somatic cell count linear score. In order to find the cows in your herd that have the highest bulk tank somatic cell count contribution and linear scores, it is helpful to sort them from highest to lowest. This can be done by pressing the blue buttons located here. Once you click on the button that indicates the way that you would like your cows to be sorted, the data will be automatically organized by that sorting category. The button will also color code the data so that the cows with the high bulk somatic cell count contribution and high linear scores turn red, while the low contributors and low scoring cows turn green. One way to utilize a sorting feature that we recommend is to first sort the cows by highest previous somatic cell count score, as shown here. Next, sort the cows by current somatic cell count score by using this button. Finally, sort the cows by bulk tank somatic cell count percent contribution. By sorting by all three categories, you can easily see how the cow is performing comparatively. If you want to undo any sorting, simply press the Undo All Sorting button, and it will remove all sorting and color coding. Also, if you wish to delete all of the data from the calculator, simply press the Delete Data from Calculator button shown here. To the right of the Sort By buttons, you will find orange boxes with the milk price per hundredweight and somatic cell count bonus parameters. These orange boxes are customizable and can be changed to any value that reflects the milk price that the producer receives per hundredweight, as well as a bonus amount per hundredweight of milk a producer receives for a bulk tank with milk below a specific somatic cell count. Next, we will look at the current herd values versus herd values with cows removed table located here. This is a very important aspect of the calculator. This table shows the current daily and monthly values of pounds of milk produced by the herd, bulk tank somatic cell count, and milk tank values, which takes the pounds of milk produced by the herd and multiplies it by the price per hundredweight, while also factoring in the somatic cell count bonus if one is achieved. The current herd values are those values which show all cows whose milk entered the bulk tank on test day without any cows being removed. The herd values with cows removed are calculated the same way as the current values. However, these values are changed if a cow is hypothetically removed and her milk does not enter the bulk tank. A cow is removed by unchecking the box next to the cow's ID on the left-hand side of the screen, located here. When a cow is unchecked, her data is excluded and the projected values in the table change. In order to enter the cow back into the herd, simply recheck the box next to her ID and her values reappear. Or, if you want all cows to be brought back into the herd, click the Check All Boxes button on the top left-hand side of the screen. The Differences section of the table is the differences between current and projected values. This allows you to see the results of removing certain cows from the milking herd. Let's look at an example of the differences between current and projected values if a cow is removed. Here, I have unchecked the box next to the cow that contributed the highest percentage of somatic cells to the bulk tank on test day. This cow's milk, instead of going to the bulk tank, could be used for an alternate purpose, such as feeding calves. As you can see, the calculated values of this cow were removed and turned green, and the herd values with cows removed and differences sections changed in the table. In this example, even though a cow was removed from the tank, the overall value of the milk increased because the somatic cell count reached below a bonus parameter mark of 200, and the bonus amount was added to the price. These values tend to increase when a herd size increases, or when there is a larger bonus for reaching an indicated somatic cell count. Finally, there is a herd mastitis health evaluation graph and table located here. The graph is showing current somatic cell count score by previous somatic cell count score for all cows in the herd. A link to a video explaining how to analyze this graph was previously made by the Dairy Focus Lab and is available by clicking on the link located here. The herd mastitis evaluation table is also available, and it shows the percentage of cows that are healthy, have cured cases of mastitis, new cases of mastitis, or chronic cases of mastitis. This table helps the user evaluate their mastitis prevalence and treatment protocols on farm. It is up to the user to play around with the calculator and find the way that they can best utilize it to help improve their herd's milk quality and udder health in order to make sure the herd is as efficient and profitable as possible. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and I hope that you have found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact the Dairy Focus team at the contact information provided.